Terrifying Encounters with Unknown Creatures. Chapter 1. The Beginning. Jake Hansen was an avid outdoorsman who had spent most of his life hiking, camping, and exploring the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest. With rugged terrain and towering trees, these woods were both his sanctuary and his playground. Jake's latest adventure, however, would take him into uncharted territory and plunge him into a nightmare he could never have imagined. It was early autumn when Jake decided to venture into the remote and rarely visited Crescent Woods. Despite hearing rumors of strange occurrences, he dismissed them as mere campfire tales. Armed with his trusty backpack, a map, and a sense of adventure, he set off on a 3-day solo hike to explore the untouched wilderness. Chapter 2. The First Signs. The first day was uneventful, filled with the sounds of nature and the rustling of leaves underfoot. As night fell, Jake set up his tent beside a small, serene lake. The moonlight danced on the water's surface, and the gentle chirping of crickets lulled him to sleep. The next morning, Jake awoke to an eerie silence. The usual sounds of the forest were absent, replaced by an oppressive stillness that seemed to press down on him. Shaking off a sense of unease, he continued his hike deeper into the woods. As he walked, he began to notice strange markings on the trees, deep, jagged gashes that looked too deliberate to be caused by any animal he knew. The forest floor was littered with odd, claw-like footprints, far larger than those of any bear or mountain lion. A chill ran down his spine, but he pressed on, attributing the marks to his overactive imagination. Chapter 3. The Encounter. By late afternoon, Jake found himself in a part of the forest that felt ancient and untouched. The trees here were colossal, their thick branches weaving a canopy that blocked out the sun, casting everything in a perpetual twilight. It was then that he first saw it, an unnerving figure standing at the edge of his vision. Tall and gaunt, the creature had elongated limbs and a pale, almost translucent skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Its eyes were large and black, reflecting no light. For a moment, Jake thought it might be another hiker, but as he called out, the figure turned and disappeared into the shadows with a speed that defied human capability. Heart pounding, Jake quickened his pace, hoping to find a more open area where he could get his bearings. But as night fell, he realized he was hopelessly lost. The forest around him seemed to close in, the trees leaning closer as if watching his every move. Chapter 4. The Night of Terror. As darkness enveloped the forest, Jake set up his camp once more, though this time he felt far from safe. He built a small fire, its flickering flames providing a semblance of security. As he sat by the fire trying to eat a quick meal, he heard it, a low guttural growl emanating from the darkness beyond the firelight. Gripping his flashlight, he shone it into the trees but saw nothing. The growl came again, closer this time, and Jake knew he wasn't alone. Panicked, he stoked the fire higher, hoping to keep whatever it was at bay. The creature circled his campsite, just beyond the reach of the light, its growls turning into an eerie, almost human-like wail. The night seemed to stretch on forever, with the creature's presence a constant torment. Jake could see glimpses of it, those cold black eyes watching him from the shadows. He dared not sleep, knowing that whatever was out there was waiting for him to let his guard down. Chapter 5. The Descent into Madness. By morning, the creature was gone, but Jake's nerves were frayed. He stumbled through the forest, desperate to find a way out. The forest seemed to twist and turn, every path looking the same. He was trapped in a labyrinth of trees with no end in sight. Exhaustion and fear gnawed at his mind. He saw the creature in every shadow and heard its growl in every rustling leaf. The boundaries between reality and hallucination began to blur. At times he thought he heard voices, whispers calling his name, luring him deeper into the forest. His food supply dwindled, and Jake's desperation grew. He fashioned a crude spear from a branch, hoping it might offer some protection. But as another night fell, he knew it wouldn't be enough. Chapter 6. The Final Stand. Jake found a large tree with a hollow at its base and decided to make his stand there. He built another fire and fortified his makeshift shelter as best he could. As the night deepened, he could hear the creature's approach. This time there were no growls or wails, just the sound of heavy footsteps crunching on the forest floor. The creature emerged from the darkness, more terrifying than before. It stood at the edge of the firelight, its eyes fixed on Jake. It was taller than he remembered, its limbs grotesquely elongated, its mouth twisted into a hideous grin. With a roar of defiance, Jake thrust his spear at the creature. It moved with lightning speed, dodging the attack and knocking him to the ground. The spear splintered uselessly. Jake scrambled back, his heart hammering in his chest. The creature loomed over him, its cold eyes boring into his soul. At that moment, Jake knew he was facing something beyond his comprehension, an ancient malevolent force that thrived on fear and despair. Chapter 7. The Escape. Just as all hope seemed lost, a blinding light filled the forest, illuminating the creature and casting it into sharp relief. The creature shrieked, recoiling from the light, and Jake felt a surge of energy. He scrambled to his feet and ran, the light guiding his way through the dense forest. The creature pursued him, but the light kept it at bay. Jake didn't question his luck. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, driven by sheer terror and the instinct to survive. The forest thinned, and soon he burst out into a clearing where the first light of dawn was breaking. Exhausted and delirious, Jake collapsed to the ground. The creature did not follow. He lay there gasping for breath as the sun rose higher, banishing the shadows and the terror they harbored. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. Rescuers found Jake later that day, alerted by his emergency beacon which he had activated in his desperate flight. He was dehydrated, malnourished, and babbling about the creature that had hunted him through the forest. Most dismissed his story as the ravings of a man pushed to the brink, but a few saw the genuine terror in his eyes and knew he had encountered something beyond the ordinary. Jake never returned to Crescent Woods. The forest, once his sanctuary, had become a place of nightmares. He moved to the city, far from any wilderness, and tried to rebuild his life. But the memories haunted him, those cold, black eyes watching from the shadows, the guttural growl that echoed in his mind. He took up writing, hoping to exorcise his demons through the written word. His stories, filled with unknown creatures and the terror they wrought, became popular among horror enthusiasts. Yet no matter how many words he wrote, he could never fully escape the nightmare of Crescent Woods. Chapter 9. The Legacy. Jake's encounter with the creature became a legend among hikers and adventurers. Some sought out Crescent Woods, hoping to glimpse the unknown horror for themselves. Most returned with tales of eerie silence and strange markings, but none encountered the creature. Years passed, but the forest remained, ancient and untouched, guarding its secrets. Jake, now an old man, could only wonder what had saved him that night. What force had driven the creature away and allowed him to escape? The light that had guided him remained a mystery, a final twist in his tale of terror. And so, Crescent Woods remained a place of fear and fascination, a reminder that some things in this world defy explanation, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the unwary traveler to stumble into their domain.